Welcome back to the fifth episode in the second series of Coppers and Brass, the programme where we've been looking at all sorts of issues in Irish traditional music. And I suppose tonight's topic is particularly controversial. It's competitions in Irish traditional music. Some people love them, some people just don't love them as much. I have with me, I'm delighted to say, Jackie Martin from Dublin, who's going to help us discuss these issues. Jackie, you're very welcome.
Thanks, Tommy. Thanks for having me in.
Not at all. Delighted to have you, Jackie. And we're going to come back to you in a second. But in the meantime, here's a couple of other opinions on competitions in Irish traditional music.
1951, when it was set up, it was to keep the music there, to promote particularly the harp and the uilleann pipes. They were nearly gone at that stage. And that's, I suppose, what they've continued to do, maintain certain instruments. But what competition does is it raises the standard. There is no doubt about that. It wouldn't have been up to the level it's at if it had just been left playing tunes, we'll say, in the kitchen or in the pub or just any place else. The competition does do that. I mean, the amount of work they put into it, the perfection, fine-tuning, learning more tunes, listening to music as well, it certainly raises standards.
It's a big one, I think, for children and for people for young people that are learning. I think it definitely creates a kind of a community and on a social aspect as well. But this definitely has a lot of young people playing music in the first instance, which is great, But I suppose on the other hand, then, it's like I see them sometimes like a bit of a factory that you go in and everyone comes out the same.
From a Dublin perspective, of course we're going to have a lot of different influences. Kids go down the country to take lessons during the summer. They'll go to Willie Clancy, they'll go to Scaleggia, they'll go off over to Sligo to the workshops. Indeed, they'll go to Skerries next week. So there will be a huge influence on them.
Sometimes there's a standardised style, but then you always see different styles coming into the competitions. You see the Connemara styles and the Northern styles coming in. So, there's a good mix, and I don't think it does much to influence what style people play with.
In some ways it's not as good because they rely too much on competitions rather than playing in proper Irish music in sessions and stuff like that.
Say, for example, if it's a whistle competition or whatever, they're all looking for a certain criteria. And it all depends on who's sitting in the chair to whether you get through or not, or whether you get a first or a second. I don't think there's any room for any wildness. There's no room for any total individuality. That would be my opinion. And it just depends on who the judges are. On a different day you could have got a completely different result, depending on who's there in front of you.
I think we all know that it's up to the adjudicator, and because there's so many different styles of playing, that really it depends on the person on the day and their interests and what style they play. And as well as that, it's only you play once, so it's how you play on the day, so everyone knows that it could be just a slip up.
That's the beauty of competition, particularly not so much for the winners, because often they're very identifiable.
And you see them, they're very disappointed when they don't come first or second, when they don't come second, or
Discouraged.
Yeah, discouraged. And they can, I think, and if they have a bit of a wild streak or their own kind of style, sometimes if you go through that process, it can knock the corners off you, and kind of it rounds you into what they want you to be.
The young ones that are just going in, that mightn't be as strong, the feedback, that's what makes the difference. Improve on this, listen to more music, emphasize something about maybe the style of playing, or maybe the way they even hold the instrument, the way they sit, even things like that. Because if they're spending hours nowadays at music, as some of them do, posture, things like that are really important. So it's the feedback on that sheet that's so important, and they all look for the feedback sheet, so they do it, thankfully.
Yes, it can be stressful, and yet they benchmark themselves against the different people, and they make a lot of friends right across the country. They know who's the best in the different classes and the different instruments throughout the country, and they I suppose Cultus and the other competitions in terms of their solo, but there's also Groupie Hall and there's Cayley bands, and so they get to play in groups, and that's the formal basis for sessions later on for them.
I suppose good committee like our own, we try and blend that in then, because in the FLA, apart from having the competitions, we would have had other events during the week. So we had concert on, we had a recital in the library. So you get people to have a broader interest in the music then, other than the competition part, to try and, I suppose, tone that little bit down.
I don't know. I would be torn, to be honest. I think it's a pity that there isn't, because the pub trade and the sessions in music is kind of, there isn't as many session opportunities during the day for young people to play along with. If there was more of that around, we'll say afternoon, Sunday sessions where you could bring children to learn, that would be fantastic. But there doesn't seem to be any other kind of platform, in a way. Depending on where you live, of course, but there doesn't seem to be much. It seems to be the only option for a lot of people, But I know there are people that are teaching kids whistles and pipes and fiddles and stuff, and they form their own bands, and they would play at concerts and local, village fundraisers or whatnot.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Jackie, plenty of different views there.
Some interesting points, all right.
Yeah, we get into them in a second. Sorry, but before we do, tell us a little bit about yourself and your own background, particularly with relation to music.
Well, I'm from North County Dublin, so I'd be out towards the kind of Swords direction. And I would have started playing music when I was very young. We were lucky that Tara Diamond and Dermy, they moved into the area, and I would have started tin whistle lessons with her. And then from that, the family was involved then with Clontarf cultus, through cousins of ours who were also involved in them. It would have been the nearest to us at the time, so that was kind of how we got started.
What age were you when you took up the whistle first?
Whistle, I was probably about 5, I'd say.
So
5 or
young,
6.
yeah.
I started a little bit, I think, just before Tara moved out, in school or that probably. And then I would have been going to cultus from then with older members of the family as well.
And you're a fiddle player?
I play the fiddle now, yeah.
And you're also, you have another wee secret.
Yeah, I started learning the pipes there about.
You've come over to the dark side.
I've gone mad altogether.
God help you.
I lost the run of myself.
That's great. Were you involved in competitions at any stage?
I would have been in bands and groups more so. Didn't solos. I think I did the whistle once or twice when I was under 12. My older brother and sister would have done solo competitions, but it was just really bands and groups that I did.
Did you make a decision about that, or was it just you didn't get excited about it, or was there any particular reason why you didn't?
I think I wasn't particularly bothered really. I know I was very young to be kind of thinking about it. We were never forced into doing it. Yep. If we wanted to enter, we did. Like I said, my older sister would have entered just purely she wanted to, I suppose. And she did it for a while, and my brother would have entered, but I just never really had the interest in doing the solo competitions. But I really enjoyed the bands and groups were a good crack in that, so I enjoyed doing that part. And
are you teaching any young people at the moment?
Yeah, I'm teaching fiddle and tin whistle now.
Right. And would you encourage those young people to go into competitions?
I wouldn't have originally. A couple of kids themselves came and asked about entering competitions, that they'd heard about FLAs or whatever. And I suppose initially I wouldn't have been too bothered about them doing it, but at the same time it gave them something to work towards when they weren't involved in anything outside of our own classes. They wouldn't have had any kind of social side to it, so it did give them something else to work towards. And I suppose they practiced a bit more than when they knew they had something to do it for.
So it was about motivation, you think?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely brought them on a bit.
Yeah, and is there any other reason for getting into competition other than motivation? Like, is this thing of being the best, is that a dominant thing with young people or not?
You can see it sometimes. It's funny, I think younger ones get kind of not talked into it, but it's a kind of a natural progression if they're already with a cultus group. It's kind of the natural thing is that they get kind of swept along, I suppose. And from that, depending on the child's personality, they'll either be in it to win it, or they're in it just because they have to. But it's funny because I think you see the real win-win attitude more so in the older musicians.
Is that older teenagers or older?
I think getting into the
20s
teenagers and a little bit older. I think anyway, because I think the younger ones probably, they're too young to know the difference at the beginning. They get into it because everyone else is doing it, or they might be talked into it.
Okay, We're going to get into that in a little bit more depth in a few minutes, but we're going to take a break now, and I know you've been in the Cobblestones once or twice in your life.
A couple of times.
You know the place, so we're going to skip over there now, and there's a few tunes there. Sean Gilrain, a great flute player, I'm sure you know him.
I do.
And we're going to hear a few tunes from Sean. It's the alliteration. So over to the Cobblestones and Sean Gilrain.
We're going to try a few jigs this time. The first one is called The Eavesdropper. The first person I heard playing this tune was a great flute player from our part of the country called Tommy Guihan. And I've played it many times with my great friend Alfie Mulligan since that. The second one, I have no name for it. And the third one is a tune that was recorded by John McKenna, in fact. It's called The Wandering Minstrel, so 3 jigs. Twice each there, yeah?
Well, Jackie, that was some music.
They're great pair of flute players, the two of them.
They are great. I could watch and listen to them all night.
Night.
But anyway, we have a wee job to do before we're finished, and we're talking about competitions. And here's the thought. I often wonder, where I live around Southdown, South Armagh, there have been hundreds of young people going to lessons and in competitions, but when you organise sessions, they're nowhere to be found. And 10 years later, an awful lot of them aren't playing. So is there anything going on there? Are young people learning music for the right motivation? Is it for the love of music, or is there a parallel thing going on? Are parents pushing children to achieve in everything from football to dancing to music? Is there anything like that going on? Or why is it that you find some young people who do very well at competitions but don't sustain themselves over the following decades at music?
I think there's a thing some of us refer to as the fla mammy syndrome.
The fla mammies.
Some of them,
I think I've got the message already. I can see her. Who is the fla mammy? Tell me about her.
You can get so, and I suppose it could be fla daddies either. But
there are a few of them too.
There's a few of those. But I think sometimes, a lot of the time, it can be maybe music or kind of mammies or daddies or whatever that maybe didn't play themselves or did play at one stage but maybe gave it up later in life and want the kids to pick up where they left off, this kind of thing. I kind of see that sometimes. Sometimes it's just a case of they've put in the work at the classes, you know, they're bringing them to lessons, they want to see results. But I think there's other results to be gained other than just winning medals. You know, there's one I can think of in particular that pushes and pushes. The kids are to the front of everything, they're winning all around them, but they're not let go to sessions. They're seeing sessions as a bad influence on their playing, which I think kids should be encouraged to play together outside of that.
Can I ask you, if they're not playing at sessions, where are they playing?
I don't know. You know, I've often seen some kids that they're just geared for competitions all the time. Flat tunes, 6 tunes learned for the year, or if they're a banded group, you know, they have whatever. They've, I suppose, a slightly bigger repertoire.
Slightly different in Jeddah too, isn't it? The group.
Like, you see them in a session and they don't know any tunes. It's so important for kids if they want to keep it up. Do you know, if they want to? So there's kids when I was doing flas, like bands and groups and stuff, that I still would have went to some of the, you know, if friends were in solo competitions, you go along to support them, and you'd see kids who were winning them back then 20 years ago and more, and they were cleaning up first place all around in 6 instruments, but you don't see them now. They're not to be heard of anymore, you know.
A couple of other aspects. I'm thinking about someone in the little piece we were listening to earlier on was saying about innovation and flair, that the requirements of competition aren't conducive to being innovative and moving about. Do you find that or not?
I would do a little bit. I adjudicated actually at a couple of flas, and I think I was the wrong person probably to. I was looking for the one that had a bit of, you know, a bit of life in it, a bit of crack about the music. Somebody that you could tell straight away they play outside of competitions, they enjoy the music, they're getting influences from everywhere, you know, because I think that's what's important. But the other thing is, like, I was probably the worst person to have adjudicating anything because I don't like to pit children against each other and to say one is better than the other on any one given day is such a negative. Is there
any evidence that it damages young people's attitude to it if they're so disappointed that they don't get the first place?
Yeah, like, I don't know, again, like I've been away from all of that for a good while now. Going back years ago, I can remember people, I suppose we were lucky in the cultist group we were with, it wasn't just competition driven. We had an awful lot of things outside of that. We played for all sorts of different occasions and stuff, so that wasn't necessarily the motivation that I remember. But I can remember kids after competitions and teenagers crying, like, and you know, and been but I suppose it's the pressure on the day and stuff, and it is only one day. You've 5 minutes
of glory
to win or
failure,
lose, you know.
Listen, Jackie, we're only getting into it, and unfortunately time has caught up with us again. Thanks very much for coming along. You have helped us reflect, and that's all we can do in a few minutes, reflect on a lot of the issues. Clearly, competitions are always going to be a contentious thing. An awful lot of people think they're a power of good and they've been central to the success of traditional music. Other people think that it has curbed individuality, regional styles, motivation. I think the juries will be out for a long while, but in particular, thank you for coming in.
Thank you, thanks very much,
Good
Sammy.
luck with the piping. There's the secret piping shake.
I'll win yet.
Anyway, listen, that was Jackie Martin helping us wade our way through the mire of the debate that is competitions in Irish traditional music. We're coming near the very end of the series. Next week is the final one, and we're going to have Tom Mulligan along, and most people know who Tom is, and that's going to be on the topic and issue that I'm sure you've debated often, etiquette at sessions.
Yes.
I think we get our teeth into that one, couldn't we? So that's it from us for this evening. Thanks very much. All the best. Keep the music going. Slán bhaile.